This is a podcast from the Queen City Podcast Network.
Yeah, like the information that I'm curious about is like, what, if you haven't seen it before, what still through the cultural osmosis of just how ubiquitous it has been for
What
decades.
the fuck are you saying, Andy?
I'm using large words, Arthur.
You're trying to confuse that.
It's a big word for Elmo.
No.
Yeah.
I just like what, I mean, what, since it's such a big part of pop culture, what have you learned of it before you actually saw it?
Let's see how easy that was.
Yeah. I had to show off my vocabulary. Okay.
Yes. He wanted to impress Carrington and Becca.
Artstar, TBJ, Professor Andy, Jackass Joe,
Nerd School in session, bringing knowledge, no aggression.
Nerd School Podcast, History for Jerks, Nerd School Podcast, History for Jerks.
What up, Nerd Hive? Joe here. Thanks for checking out another episode of the Nerd School Podcast by History for Jerks. This one's all about the first ever Star Wars movie, A New Hope. And as you recall from the previous episode, Artstar, Andy, and I were joined by our young anime nerd pal Carrington, who had never seen a Star Wars movie. So what better way to jump into Star Wars than with a newbie? But you may not know this. We were supposed to have 2 Star Wars newbies on, but our other pal Becca fell asleep that night and missed the recording. We're not mad at her, though, because sleep is precious. I always say never get less than 12 hours sleep. I also say never trust a woman with a tattoo of a dagger on her body, never play poker with a guy with the same first name as a city, but that's neither here nor there. Sleep is precious. We're glad Becca got her sleep. But she joined us and went ahead and watched Star Wars and joined us for this episode where we talk about Star Wars A New Hope from 1977, and we discuss what they thought of it as 2 newbies jumping into Star Wars in 2024. Does it hold up? Can he even do that? Is it too late? What do they think of the characters? We talk about all this stuff. But you'll also hear that I'm going to sprinkle in segments of a conversation I had with my young 11-year-old cousin Sparky at the lake. We mentioned him in the Heroes Con episode because he had a great time at Heroes Con in Charlotte, and he is a young fledgling nerd in the making. He's a huge Star Wars buff, so I thought it would be fun to record a conversation with him about A New Hope and then kind of sprinkle it into this episode. We'll see how it worked. It's hit or miss, trying things new. So it's a little segment I called What Does an 11-Year-Old Think? So you'll hear that throughout the podcast too. So I hope you enjoy that. We're sad that TBJ wasn't on these last couple episodes, but she is a busy lady, and she took a well-deserved vacation recently while we recorded those Star Wars episodes. But don't worry, we know you love her, as we do, and she'll be back and putting Artstar in his place. One more thing, while I have you, before we get into the episode, if you haven't already, please leave us a 5-star review if you get a second on Apple Podcasts, if that's where you listen. It helps a lot. Also, be sure to subscribe to us if you haven't already. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for listening. We love you, listeners. You make us so happy. And now, without further ado, please enjoy episode 114 of the Nerd School Podcast by History for Jerks.
Nerd School in session, bringing knowledge, no aggression.
Welcome to Nerd School Star Wars Edition, where we found a couple Star Wars newbies, and we are slowly introducing them to the Star Wars universe. We have Carrington, who we've already heard from, and we have our other friend here, Becca, joining us. Becca, thanks for being here.
Yay!
Hey.
I'm holding for applause.
We can have the applause. I'll have the applause in post.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me. Yeah. I've never seen Star Wars.
Okay, you've never seen the movies, or you've never seen the TV shows, or any of it?
Oh, I didn't know there were TV shows. Oh yeah. No, I didn't know. I've never seen anything. I've seen like Is there a Lego thing? I feel like I've seen a Lego thing.
Yeah, they're pretty late.
Yes, there's a Lego Star Wars video game.
And there's
Got it.
also
And
a show, a
movies.
couple shows, yeah.
And figs.
Oh, maybe not the fanfics. I don't know. Maybe I've seen something maybe Star Wars Lego related with my nephew. I think showed me something, but other than that, I have zero visual Star Wars knowledge.
All right, Becca, tell us if you can give us. You don't have to tell us the exact age, but ballpark if you don't want to say this, because I know you never ask a woman their age. But about how old are you? Because I know Carrington is quite a bit younger than us. We're old enough to be her dads. But for you, are you a little bit older? Are you close to Carrington's age? I can't really tell. You look young, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
mysteriously aged. I am turning 30 in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm around Carrington's age, I think.
And Carrington, you're a little bit younger, right? 20.
A little younger than me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Carrington's
23.
Okay.
a
very
baby.
young,
Oh,
okay.
you're a lot younger than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little younger than you.
But 30 is
Wow.
that's a good. I was gonna guess around almost 30 or so. So both of you are old enough to have been around for lots of Star Wars. So that's why I just wanted to be sure, like, how many years have you dodged it? Here you are, 30,
Sure.
about 30, and then you're gonna have it. So let me ask you, did you purposefully dodge it? Or did you just
Sure.
happen to not?
Great question. Not really. It just never was something that like was interesting to me. And also, I think I have a vague memory of seeing like being taken to the movies to see Star Wars when I was, and you guys can tell me what movie this would be, but I was probably like, I don't know, by a babysitter when I was like maybe 7 or 8, 6, 7 or 8. So I'm 30.
Okay.
So maybe, I don't know, early 2000s. I don't know what movie that would be, or if it was like a reboot or something like that.
It will
But I
likely
remember-
have been one of the prequels, yes.
Prequels.
Yeah,
Okay,
probably,
great.
Yeah.
And I remember falling asleep, much like I did the other night, much like I did the first time I watched it last night.
Oh, okay.
But I
So
watched
you-
it again today, and I didn't
Okay.
fall asleep the second time. I tried again, and I watched the second half today. I watched it in 2 parts, but I watched it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I watch everything in small
yeah.
doses. Yeah.
Right. So I think, I don't know if that's the ADHD in me. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
if it's just
Oh, you're gonna
length
fit
of it.
right in well here.
Oh, great. I feel it. I can feel it.
Yes.
But I don't know what it is, but I think it just seemed like a long, boring thing that
Mhm.
I never really had context for.
Okay.
So I never really took a dive into it. I mean, I've had like boyfriends who were like, you need to watch Star Wars, and like bought me the VHS and all that other stuff. And I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, and
Yeah.
never did it. Never for a
Yeah,
man.
that's never gonna work.
Yeah, never for a man. But maybe for 3 men. Maybe for 3 nice men who ask me nicely.
Three
Politely ask
old,
me.
nice,
Yeah.
nerdy men.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask
exactly.
you this, because I think I probably asked you this before we decided to throw you on this too. Do you consider yourself a nerd though?
I would say I am. I mean, I think I like nerdy things.
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud in public, but I think the nerdiest thing about me is I was like a supernatural girl though. So I'm like more, I think, what is that, like sci-fi than it is fantasy, because it's like angels and demons and stuff, right? Am I
Ooh.
right?
Anson Jenkins or Jared Padalecki?
Oh, that's a great, thank you, Art. Asking the real
Anson
questions.
Jekyll?
This is why I came on the
Jeez.
podcast.
I have
These are
no
the
idea
real
what-
issues.
I have no idea what Art
Jensen
just said.
Jensen
Jared
Ackles, not
Padalecki
Anson
is-
Jekyll.
Whatever,
Yeah,
whatever.
no, you're good.
Whatever.
I knew what he meant.
You knew what I
Jensen
meant.
Jekyll's. Jensen Ackles?
I
What
did
are we
too. I
saying?
just needed to call it out because
But
apparently I have to
as
shit
you
on
see-
it once in a while.
Becca, as you see, we've been recording for how long? And straight away, and you take giant shit on me.
Anson Jekyll is his alternate personality, his demon.
Right.
Oh, there you go, Jekyll and Hyde.
Alter
Way to turn it
ego.
around.
Yeah,
That was-
exactly.
That was smart.
But Jared Padalecki is on books like not a great person, I think. So I think I'm gonna have to go with Jensen Ackles. I think he's never like yelled at a bar owner or like destroyed anything in public. So I'm gonna have to go with him. And also The Boys is a great show. I don't know if you guys
Okay.
have talked about that. That's
little
very
bit.
nerdy.
I love
Yeah.
The Boys.
The Boys
I'm
is
watching
so
season 3
good.
right now.
Oh my God, I'm on
really,
season-
Carrington?
I'm on season 3. It's so good. It's
Isn't that
very
so gross for you guys? It's so
It's very gross. It's
No,
extremely gross. I have to take breaks. I really
I'm
do.
fine with gore. I was supposed to be watching that tonight, but I'm on the podcast, which I'm not
you.
mad at.
The crazy
Thank you for
thing
clarifying.
is, I've tried to watch The Boys, and to me, it sucks.
oh,
Really?
Like, it sucks.
Just
I watched
boring,
what
or
Gen V. It's to me, it's like I've read some of the books,
Mhm.
but it's one of those things where it's like watching it, like that gratuitous, like blood and violence
Mhm.
doesn't come across realistically. Like if I'm reading, or if it
Oh,
was
of course.
animated, it would probably be great. Like I love
Yeah.
Invincible. I love Invincible. I wouldn't want to see a live action Invincible. And like
Gotcha.
to me, The Boys is
Yeah.
something I don't want to see live action because it's just like how much blood and gore can we cram into an episode, but then also try to tell a story? It's like,
Very
yeah.
much. Yeah, I get that. There's a lot of stuff I don't want to see live action, so I feel that. That's my least favorite thing about it, and I like all the other stuff, like the storytelling stuff and the character stuff. That's the stuff I like
Mhm.
about a movie or a book or whatever. That's what I'm into. So I kind of
Mhm.
ignore all the other stuff around the
Mhm.
boys, and I really love Jensen Ackles. I do. So when he came back into like an actual superhero thing, because he's also been, I think, in Batman. He was in a Batman animated series. Whatever. I could talk
Oh,
about
he
Jensen
might have
Also,
been,
Days of Our
Yeah,
Lives.
good. Days of Our Lives.
We're big Days of Our
with
Lives fans here on History for Jerks. Art and I did a separate Days of Our Lives podcast just about
Oh wow.
Jack A. Because
Really?
Jack A. and
Yeah.
I haven't put it out yet, but T-Boz,
Oh.
T-Boz and Jack A. are both on there, and Marla Gibbs. So anyway, that's
Who
all
are
another
people
thing.
we know because we're old.
Yeah,
People we
I
know.
love
Yeah,
that.
we're
all know.
and the name
Yeah,
Jensen
just
Ackles is great. I just Googled him. That's how I saw these on Days of Our Lives.
You know, to be fair,
Mhm.
Anson Jekyll's is also a cool name.
Anson Jekyll's is also.
Well, in my defense, maybe I knew who I was going for, but Anson popped in my head because of Anson Mount, who's a great actor as well. So maybe I
Yes.
was just confused and they combined the two.
That's
but
true.
but Jared, I watch Walker, so like I see him more often than I do Anson. So
Wait,
and-
he's on the new Walker Texas Ranger,
he's actually Walker.
and is that worth watching?
It's okay. It's just it's ending, but it's there's no Chuck Norris type feel to it. Like when it first
Okay.
started
That's
coming
not
on,
necessarily a bad thing.
well, the reason I say because when you think of Chuck Norris's Texas Ranger, you're expecting to see some sort of roundhouse kick. There's no roundhouse.
Yeah.
It's
Right,
like
that's
watching
what the Roadhouse did.
It's like watching Roadhouse and not seeing like any fight scenes. Like, oh, it's
Right.
Roadhouse.
Or any butts. That's the other thing about Roadhouse.
You see a lot of butts.
Yeah. Well, one butt, Patrick Swayze's butt. That's really what matters. And then Conor McGregor's butt, I think, in this one, in the new one.
Mhm.
This
Yes,
is also fine.
we're already
that's-
talking about butts. This is great.
Yeah.
You guys are really going to fit in well. Let me just say,
Yeah.
also say Jensen Ackles went to Lloyd W. Berkner High School.
Oh yeah.
How do you
By the
know that?
Richardson,
way,
Texas.
Joe has an obsession with
Home of the
where
Rams.
everyone went to high school, and he wants to have a podcast called Famous Alumni, where he just talks about people who went to specific high schools,
Yes.
which is I can't believe.
Well,
that would
Akeem
ever go.
Talib and Everson Walls both went to the same school. And you love Everson Walls. So
Oh.
so there you go. Jensen Ackles. There you go. Sorry, that was
I bet the last episode of Jared Padalecki's Walker Texas Ranger will feature a roundhouse kick.
There will
that
be
be
a
the big
roundhouse.
climax of the final show. All right, go on.
So there's bare butts in Walker Texas Ranger? I thought it was on TV.
No, we're talking about Roadhouse.
Oh, Roadhouse has the bare asses. That's
Oh
right.
yeah,
Yes.
Roadhouse. Yeah. The first one and the sequel, which is like, notable.
Okay.
Also, I looked up to see if there was anybody famous who ever went to my high school. It was literally 0 people. Like
Zero
no,
people.
Like,
Well, you're gonna have to be the
they're all,
first. Famous
mean, they're like-
podcaster, Becca.
Yeah, famous podcaster, me.
Yes.
They're all like sports people. Maybe you guys would know the sports people. I don't know any of the sports people. So
So
you
that
know,
that
me, it's
well, you
like,
saying
nothing.
that makes me feel like that's also you don't know sports people. That's nerdy. But I was gonna ask the judges, I guess Andy, Art, and Carrington,
Mhm.
does Becca being into Supernatural, does that count as nerdy?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's right in the genre wheelhouse.
Okay, so you're in.
That one that lasted for like 14 seasons or something like that.
16, 16,
Oh,
right?
I
it
could get
21
into
or
that,
something like that. Yeah,
Oh, wow,
20
okay.
something like that. Yeah, maybe.
But yeah,
It
it's just
ended
like
recently.
it's two hot dudes solving supernatural crimes of some
Oh,
sort,
God.
I think.
And there was a Scooby-Doo crossover, right?
There was an episode that was like alternate universe where they pretended to be in Scooby-Doo, I think. So yeah, they definitely did that. I like that. I'm also kind of a music nerd. I like
Okay.
music stuff, and then I
You like
also
cheap-
I just recently got a Switch, so I'm becoming a video game nerd. But it's like
video
a
game
very
nerd.
recent thing. Very
Ooh.
recent, like as of like maybe 4 days ago.
Oh, really recent?
Alright.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You dip your toes.
Actually, yeah. I bought it from
The
Hunter.
game.
Hunter sold it to me.
Hunter
gave me
sold
the
you-
Switch. So I'm living on
Also-
Hunter's
Crazy.
Island right
Yeah.
now.
History for Jerks alum, American Timelines alum, Hunter Brain, which I say his name all the time. So,
Yeah.
he's like,
Oh, he was.
well,
I
that's
live on
cool.
his weird crackhead island, as he calls it. He like made everything weird and concretey, and like
what, Animal
there's like
Crossing?
cockroach. Yeah, there's like cockroaches running around and stuff. It's very
Yeah,
strange, but I live on it.
Well, you know, if you don't go on the island for a while, you develop cockroaches. Like I know
That's what happens.
if I was to go into my island right now, it would be overran. But my island, I have it set up, bringing it back to Star Wars, my island is set up like I am a Sith. So my island is set up like the dark side. Like you go into my island, there are Sith logos everywhere. It's like red and black. I've gotten rid of all
That's
the
cool.
grass.
Well, I
except
don't
for
know
a
if
hill.
Becca, do we know what a Sith is yet? Do they even mention Sith in this first movie?
It's like I don't know, but again, we could talk about what Andy was talking about from context. I know it's like
Right.
it's a bad thing, right? It's an evil thing, the Sith.
Ah,
Right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a
So
dark,
you do know.
right?
Context clues.
Dark
That's
is
good.
bad, right?
Yeah,
It's
we're
like
gonna
a-
take you
necessarily
down.
evil.
Obi-Wan is like a title, right? It's like Darth is a title, kind of bad.
Well, I don't know. We're
good.
going to talk about
I
that.
don't
We're
know.
going to talk about that. 'Cause
I don't know.
I don't
Okay,
know if
great.
Obi-Wan's a title. Maybe it is.
Explain
Maybe Art and Andy know a little more than I do. But
We'll
we'll take you down the whole Sith path, the whole Jedi path. We're going to get really, really nerdy into Star Wars. I took notes again this time watching it through too, because I had some things. I wrote down some things that have always bothered me about Star Wars. But I'm hoping Art and maybe Andy will jump in and give a no, or compete for the no prize, which we'll talk about later what that is. And that's
okay.
instead of being a nerd naysayer and saying this is not real because of this, or he just ruined this from the canon. Nerds should be saying, "Oh, this is why this is this way. Maybe this is the thing," explaining why something is instead of naysaying.
that,
it and
that was a thing Marvel Comics would do for a while. It was like when the letter writers would point out something that they made a mistake, they would give a no prize to someone who actually explained why it was not a mistake. And then it was literally no prize. They get like a postcard that said, "Hey, you have won no prize. Congratulations." And it was kind of a fun joke that really kind of engaged the fans for a while.
I think the postcard is a nice price, though. I would frame it.
Yeah, people would like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
if
so
you got a postcard from Marvel Comics thanking you for explaining away their mistakes, I think that's a prize in itself. But yeah,
well, Becca, hopefully, I like that you're a little different than Carrington because Carrington's always wanted to watch Star Wars. She's considered herself a nerd, and she was like, "I've just been waiting." But I like that you had tried, found it boring, always thought it's been boring. But your thoughts toward it is like how I always felt towards Star Trek. And I was always like, oh, it's just like mind-numbingly boring. Because I feel like it's Star Wars without all the battles and anything else. It's just old guys talking about space. And there are battles and stuff, but it's just like, And I think part is my dad loved it and would watch all the time. And so it just instantly became boring to me. Because anything he liked was boring, like Conway Twitty and that.
you like the Nashville Network and Star Trek. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, it's like Star Wars, but just without all the cool stuff. But
Except with, I won't rehash that right now.
well, yeah, I'm trying to watch it
Focus on Star
now.
Wars.
I'm actually watching.
I'm a Star
now.
Trek defender, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get into it now that I'm old, and I think I like a slower pace now because I almost fall asleep all the time anyway. So I think I'm into older guy stuff. Like I'm into staring at a lake.
Wait, are you trying to imply that Star Trek is a lemon party?
Yes, it's basically Lemon Party with dialogue.
Okay.
Anyway, so now let's go ahead and okay, we got Becca here, we got Carrington in here, and they have watched their first Star Wars anything. And we decided to start with A New Hope because that's how we all started when we were 3 years old. I was 1, I think, but I don't think I saw it when I was 1, but I think I probably saw it.
In the theater, like back then, movies stayed in theaters for a lot longer than they do now.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't, like, cable was barely a thing. Like VHS hadn't happened yet, so like the only way to go see a movie was in the theater. So with a movie like Star Wars, which was a huge hit, stayed in theaters for years. So I don't know exactly when we actually saw it in the theater, but I remember being a kid, sitting in the theater. Like, I was short enough that I could stand up. I was standing up the whole time, looking over the seat in front of me, and I remember the big the Death Star explosion at the end of it.
Spoiler.
And
yeah, me
everyone
as well.
here's seen it.
Yeah,
everyone here's seen it.
Yeah, I know. I was little, standing on the. I remember my brother John, who's 5 years older than me, had to read the crawl to me because I couldn't read yet. You know that, and then we immediately. It feels like, just in my memory, we immediately had all the action figures and bought a bunch of action figures and toys, and I just grew up knowing all these characters and playing with them, and having the ships and the guys and all the stuff. So,
and every little weird side character, everyone in the crazy cantina like had their own figure and had a name that was never mentioned in the movies, but we knew it because we had the toys. And I think that really sort of cemented how much it stuck with people, is that all this stuff was out there.
And I think to this day, that's what I love about it. All the different characters, and then the legacy of Star Wars, that they've continued to take these random background characters and develop them into things like, and we'll get into all that later, but that's what I love about it. There's all these people, every single extra is almost a character. Like, there's all these names, and the Wikipedia's gotten out of hand. Like, it's crazy what the backstories have become and everything. So that's what I love about it. But we just grew up in a different era than you guys. Like, and Carrington just kind of mentioned that we're her dad's age, and so her dad probably had the same childhood as we did. Everybody in the neighborhood brought their action figures over. We would all play all together, and you pool everybody's action figures and ships, and you got the whole universe. And everybody was a Star Wars person. Everybody had lightsabers. Everybody had a Han Solo gun that made a sound, and we just were Star Wars all the time. Run around outside playing and pretending we're on the Death Star and all that. So this was our childhood. So
well, you guys know my dad, so you know that he's not like a nerd person. He's like, well, he is a nerd, but he's like a Broadway nerd. He loves Barbara Streisand and Celine Dion, and my mom loves wrestling.
Oh gosh, I love your mom already.
My mom loves SVU. Like, that's what plays in my house all the time, is freaking SVU, and I have to be like, Mom, are the children are here? Can you turn SVU off because they're talking about murder?
So, does your mom love old school wrestling, like pro wrestling, or current?
Oh yeah, like she loved The Rock in his heyday when he was like big. That was her man, was The Rock. Was cool. Like, yeah, we always joke that like my mom would like marry Oprah, and my dad my dad would marry Oprah, and my mom would marry The Rock, and that would be like how they would like be happiest. Those were their ideal people. But I wasn't like Star Wars in my house. What was that? Was that, I don't know if you guys talked about this last time and I wasn't here, but is that how you guys all got introduced to it? The guys, was it like your family was into Star Wars, or did you find it on your own, like through your friends, or?
Well, it was introduced to us as kids. So like
just being out in the public.
Yeah. Like every kid went to see Star Wars. I mean, that's all you did. And so our parents took us. So my parents were
like
really
the toy store, and you saw like it was Star Wars.
Yeah. Toy Store.
This was the era when there were like 3 networks on television, and
there's no cable,
no cable, no streaming, nothing like that.
No phones.
And so movies, there weren't as many movies churned out that we would see, and this was a phenomenon. Like, it was the term blockbuster was created by Jaws and Star Wars, and that meant people lined up around the block to see it. Blockbuster's kind of thrown around now, but that's what it meant at the time, and it was a huge revelation kind of thing. And also at the time, sci-fi movies were not this well made as far as the technical thing. It was a technical marvel, and that was kind of what George Lucas really wanted to do anyway. I think story was second to him, and mostly he wanted to do these really cool things with models and how all the special effects came together, and just sort of advance the medium of film that way. And that was a huge thing. And you can kind of tell that story was not necessarily his driving force. But the whole point of the film was to sort of throw back to the old adventure movie serials from like the 30s and 40s that used to be play before every movie that would come out. So he wasn't trying to win Oscars, really. He was just trying to have like a whiz-bang adventure for kids. And that's what definitely comes through, but also is something I think has been lost a lot when all the kids, too many of the kids that really got into it then grew into adults who that defined them too much, and kind of creates some levels of toxic fandom within the whole thing, which is a whole other discussion.
Well, that's the thing. At this point, it's a whole crazy thing. Like, we witnessed it become that. Like, it started off as nothing. I don't even think he thought it was going to be. I think he thought it was going to be a B movie, like Flash Gordon and some of these other things. Like,
well,
just kind of
a lot of these movies, like you say, were created, and then the way they got in, I guess, kids' mind was some of these movies for kids were like giant commercials, right? Because it launched toy lines. Or like He-Man, like when that came out, He-Man was kind of sold by kids seeing the cartoon. So like Star Wars, it's like, oh, hey,
Star Wars kind of set the mold for merchandising from a film.
So it's one of those things where it's like you watch the movie, kids are like, ooh, I want this, so they go get the figures who had 4 points of articulation, but they were happy. They were happy because they could own Darth Vader, or R2-D2.
Even as janky as those little old figures were, where like the cape was just a little piece of plastic with 2 armholes poked in it, and the little lightsaber thing that came out of their hand that didn't make any sense.
But it sold shit. It was like that. And so now, we have social media, we have television, we have this, we have that. Every content creators out here doing unboxing of things. So like it's not as humble as it was back then. Now it's just like it's an explosion of this has to be perfect. This has to be this. Back in the day, it's hard to really enjoy it sometimes just because of the toxicity that exists nowadays.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of the first things that,
especially in a movie about space.
Yeah. Do you feel like the toxicity art is like from the people who watched it originally mostly, who are like not okay with the new stuff, or is it just something that's always existed?
I think it's a combination of both. And some people who they feel like source material has been screwed over, but then they've bred kids who they've now passed along that this should only be this way, that way, and then you have the world changing, and those people who like the source material not being able to reconcile the change, and because they can't like that's not my Star Wars, like how dare they diversify my story about space aliens? How dare they?
Right. There would not be white people in my space alien story.
I think that like the initial Star Wars, everyone was a big Star Wars fan. It just was everywhere. And then by the time the prequels came out, the original Star Wars fans were in their 20s, and I think expected the franchise, I guess, to grow with them. But then, because we didn't expect there to be any more movies, everyone wanted them. And there was, George Lucas had said some stuff like, oh yeah, there's more chapters to this that I wrote to get to these movies. But we didn't think it would ever happen until then suddenly the prequels were going to come out in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then they wanted the franchise to, I guess, mature with them or something. But George Lucas pulled the other way and said this was for kids originally. The prequels are also for kids, and the adult fans got real janky about it. Like, these are awful. The first ones were great. Everything I like when I was a kid was great, and this is bad. But then there are the kids from that era who saw the prequels as their first Star Wars movies, and then they think those are great. That's because they were still Star Wars movies and they were really interesting and visually arresting. And then now those kids are adults in these next 3 Star Wars sequels that came out.
Now these kids are pissed.
Yeah. It's this weird cycle of angry nerd.
Yeah, and that's what we try to do here on Nerd School is try to not be angry nerds, but like recognize what nerds are mad about, recognize nerd, but also talk about it and appreciate it. Why are people nerds, or why are nerds pissed, and what should you be, or how can you do it? And then, but it's also like this is one of the first things that became a giant franchise that somebody grew up with in this way. And just like Andy said, you expect it to grow with you, and it's still a kid friendly thing. I remember because we watched it. So when the prequels came out, we were in college, just like Andy said, like we're little kids in the 70s and 80s growing up in the neighborhood before cell phones and technology and computers and playing. And then in the 90s, we started smoking weed and the prequels came out. But before the prequels came out, they re-released 4, 5, and 6 first, like with new technology, and added all cool stuff. And so, oh my God, I can watch it in the theater again, like I didn't since I was a kid. But this time I can eat a pot brownie and feel the Death Star explode. Oh my God, it was great.
Feel the Death Star explode. Okay, that makes a lot of sense because I watched it on Disney Plus. So I'm assuming I was watching the remastered version, right?
You are, yes.
Okay, great. Because a lot of things feel a little weird to me. Like Jabba the Hutt feels a little weird to me. You know,
he
like
was not
like slinky.
Yeah, he was not in the original movie. He didn't come in till the 3rd movie, and that's something that that's another thing that pisses a whole level of pissing off nerds is this that George Lucas won't release the original ones we watched in the 70s. He added all this stuff now that technology exists. And I guess his argument is, well, I always wanted this stuff in it. I just didn't have the technology. Now I do, so here it is. And so that was a deleted scene that wasn't a big monster-looking guy. It was just a fat guy. And then they CGI'd Jabba in later. And now you can't get it without that. And so that's something that pisses people off. So
strange.
I mean, they did once. When they released the special editions, there was enough outcry for the original versions because there's a couple of things in this version that you guys saw. The Jabba the Hutt scene was one of them, but that just was kind of a janky. Like, that didn't work well. But there's another moment we'll get to that created a huge nerd firestorm. So people wanted the original versions, and he did just kind of say, "All right, fine. Here's the originals. There's DVDs." He released them once. I own them, but they've not been released since, and apparently they're really hard to get now. And now no one has DVDs anyway, so they wouldn't understand.
So Andy, could you make big money off of those? We sold them.
I don't know. I might be able to get like $75 or something for one of them.
Wow.
I was gonna say I used to have the original Star Wars VHSs because I thought I was trying to impress somebody, and I bought them at a Goodwill like back when I was in high school, just to be like, oh, I have Star Wars on VHS. So I wonder now if I still had those, like how much those would be worth because those were the original. Yeah.
The VHS version. I'm not sure where we are as far as the tape culture because
using VHSs.
I mean, there's the retro thing. Like people were trying to bring cassette tapes back. And which is it wasn't going to work because the sound quality was never as good as the CDs, which was the whole point of the CDs. But it's VHS is just you all see The Ring, that movie?
Yeah,
where the little girl climbs out of the
thing. That was too scary for me.
It was it was just It was just weird to me that VHS tape, which came out when I was a kid, has aged enough to be creepy old film levels of horror to
Yeah.
a newer generation.
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I still have a CD player, but VHS to me for some reason is like a level too far. Like I can't have an old TV. Like I can have an old music player, but I can't have an old TV. Like that's too far, Andy.
I
You
get
can't
it.
do that.
I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
I've got
no, I
2
understand that.
VHS players, but I think they eat every 4th tape. So I've been trying to convert old tapes into DVDs and stuff. Anyway,
Man,
so
I
let's
remember like
Yeah, go ahead.
taping over stuff. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I
No.
remember taping over stuff to like when Green Day would play like on, like TV and I'd want to watch it later. I would tape over it on a VHS and play it back. I remember
Okay.
that.
Okay, good.
So I'm old enough to remember that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You had to
like, I
put tape
understand
over
that.
the little notch so it would record again
Yeah,
if
yeah,
it was broken
that's
off.
right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, let's
Yeah.
jump into a little bit more to Star Wars. So we already kind of backwards jumped in with the whole thing about the Jabba the Hutt thing and the couple added things. But so this, just to give an overview, in case there's anyone listening along who's also new, this was a 1977 American epic space opera film written and directed by George Lucas, produced by Lucasfilm, distributed by 20th Century Fox. It's the first film released in the Star Wars film series and the 4th chronological chapter of the Skywalker saga. And so that's what it is. And it kind of, we don't have to go through like frame by frame what the story is about. But so I do want to start off. I have a bunch of notes of things that I was like, that might get too nerd heavy, but I want to talk about everything with you guys. One thing I will say is I watched it with my son, or my son was popping in and out as I was watching it. He has since I introduced him to it as a kid. He has since become a Star Wars like expert, knows way more than me about it. So he told me some things that I'll share with you guys. But when Andy said the thing about, we watched it, we wanted to grow with us, and it was for kids, I had a choice. My son was born in 2005. So after he was about 3, I had to decide, how am I going to introduce Star Wars to him? And I decided, because he was still little, I thought the prequels would be good, because we'll get to this later, but they have a character named Jar Jar Binks that's like really for kids. I thought that'd be the best way to get him into it. And so he remembers, the way he looks at Star Wars. He loves 4, 5, and 6, of course, like we all do, but he thinks the prequels are great and kind of they're his favorite because that's what he watched as a kid, just like Andy kind of said. So I think it's all about your experience. I think there's a big percentage of movie enjoyment or anything enjoyment is where you are, how you feel, when you watch something when you're in a bad mood and then you fucking hate it, or you taste food when you're in a bad mood, that fucking food sucks.
Yeah.
Everything is like that. It's like how you are in your life, where you're at, what memories. You might watch something with your dad and then, oh my God, what a great feeling. He bought me popcorn and we had a great day together. And then your dad dies later and you're like, oh my God, I love this movie because this was we watched this together. Then you watch it and it's Fletch 2 and it sucks. You're like, what the fuck? I don't know. So all that to say, everything's relative, I guess. But so what did you guys think of this movie? Like, what was your feeling? Like, Becca, you fell asleep. Was it because you were bored or because it sucked?
No, I don't think it's because I was bored. I mean, I also took notes, Joe. So I tried to take notes today when I was awake through the second half of the movie. I took exactly 2 notes throughout the entire 2.5-hour movie.
Wow.
And I would can I cuss on this podcast?
Yes, you can fucking cuss.
You can fucking cuss. I love it. So my first note is, what the fuck is Jabba the Hutt? And my second note is, Luke Skywalker sucks. So those are my 2 notes.
Okay, we'll get to those. Let's get Carrington's impression first.
Yeah, Carrington, are you upset that she said that about Luke Skywalker?
I don't know. I liked Luke a little bit.
Okay.
He's whiny.
I
He's a
really
baby.
liked the movie. He's like 17, isn't he?
Yeah, that's my problem with him.
But no, I loved it. Me and my boyfriend, we watched it together, and I was trying not to ask him too many questions, but I really liked the movie.
You did.
I wanted to watch. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we established before that Carrington is an anime nerd and loves One Piece. And I did a little homework for you, Carrington. I watched the first episode of One Piece,
Yeah.
and I've
Oh
never.
my god!
Do you know what that is, Becca? Are you familiar?
I do know what One Piece is. I have
Wait.
watched at least 5 episodes of One Piece.
Ooh,
Not the whole
5.
thing. But I think it's very cool that you watched it for Carrington,
0.002%
of
of it.
Of
I
1,100
got
episodes.
so excited. I want
I
to say
think it's
that's
very
0.2%,
sweet.
Art.
So
Yeah.
I will say it's so nerdy to say, but I LOL'd on multiple occasions. And I don't know. I
Yeah.
think the funniest thing I liked about it was I loved the way the Japanese is translated in the just the way they talk different than Americans. So just the way things are translated are funny. I don't know.
Did you
But
watch it in English or in Japanese?
So I watched it in Japanese with subtitle, English subtitles.
Okay.
I didn't have an option of. That was the only thing Crunchyroll had.
Crunchyroll has the dub, I believe.
The only way you should be watching anime is in Japanese.
Well,
What?
I agree.
That's a different conversation. I
You gotta let
don't
it
know with them.
though. The Americans don't have the right inflection. Like whenever I watch like Studio
and the
Ghibli,
translation is not as good.
I think for One Piece is one of the better dubs there are. I like both sub and dub. I've seen both. I watch a lot of my anime in both sub and dub. Like I'll switch between episodes, so that way.
Sub and dub.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a short.
Are you a sub or a dub?
I'm a sub or a dub. I guess I'm a sub, but that was the only option I had. I will say I had Crunchyroll Premium. I had like the trial. I did a trial of Crunchyroll Premium, and it didn't. At least the first episode, it didn't offer that on my Crunchyroll Premium thing. Maybe
Well, I know you can watch it on Netflix. Netflix has the English.
Well, I'm too poor for
Phew.
Netflix right now. I have to like. I can't have all the streamings. I have to like.
No,
pick and
you're
choose.
right. Actually,
Right now, I have the package between Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN. So I told my kids like we can't have all of it. So we're pausing with YouTube TV. We're pausing with Netflix. We have Hulu. We have this and that. So my daughter's bugging me. Can we get Netflix back? I want to watch this one thing.
No, because you can't even share Netflix anymore, which is the thing I can't
I'm like
do.
mooching off of my parents somehow.
You can't.
Somehow I'm still able to.
Well, God bless you, Carrington.
Don't tell anyone. Don't advertise it.
Of everybody I know, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, we don't want to get caught.
Yeah.
But that said, so I love. Okay, your notes are you hate Luke Skywalker, and what the hell is Jabba the Hutt? Which
what is he? Okay, because Luke, or I think it's Luke, has that line that's like, or no, it's Han Solo that has that line where he's like, "You're a good human, Jabba."
And I was like,
is that
no,
ironic?
I heard that.
Is that sarcastic? Or is he really just like a really fucked up human? I don't know.
Because it was a pause. It was a pause when he said that. He said,
Yeah, maybe I'm
human.
jumping
It was
really
silent.
far into the movie.
You guys are jumping.
We can get to that later if we
because
need to. But
he was cut from the movie originally completely. His story was in there, but that scene was not. That was a deleted scene immediately.
Han owing him money. That whole scene isn't there at all.
That whole sequence was not there at all. It was.
And they talk about it.
They talk about he's got the price on his head, but that scene when originally filmed,
it was just
Jabba
a
the
fat
Hutt
guy.
Was just a fat guy in a weird pelty thing. He was just like a human dude.
He looked like Friar
And then they change it because later he's got Leia in the slave outfit.
Yeah,
I get it.
In the third movie,
let's explain no more though.
Uh-huh.
That scene wasn't even in the movie we saw. Like that scene wasn't even there at all. The fat
you guys didn't know about that.
That was a deleted scene.
Version.
Yeah, it feels like that didn't even need to be there. It was just
It did not. It was just a
when
sign.
you guys saw whatever episode it is where Leia's in the slave costume and you see Jabba the Hutt for the first time, did you know? Sorry, I know that's a spoiler, but did you understand that in context, or were you like, why the fuck is that thing? Because he's a fat guy. Like, were you confused?
Well, the fat
or did
guy
that come out after the remastered version?
Yeah, no. So the fat guy, the fat guy scene, that whole scene wasn't even there. They never showed Jabba. They talked about Jabba, but they never showed him in 1977. I don't think they showed him till 2011 or something when they redid everything.
No. You got the we
So
never
did you
saw
not even
that.
know it was the same person?
Yeah, so that scene
Yeah.
wasn't even there. That fat guy scene wasn't there. That
We
scene
didn't-
was not cut
Yeah,
completely.
we never see Jabba the Hutt until the third original film.
Oh, see,
So
yeah,
that
that
scene
would
that's in that
upset me.
movie did not show up in that movie until
You
the
didn't
special
know it
edition in like
was-
1997, I think.
They
Okay.
made
97.
Jabba the Headhunter they retroactively made Jabba the Headhunter, right?
No.
Or the-
So Jabba
whatever.
was the headhunter, and Jabba was the big worm guy in like 1987,
Yeah.
the third movie.
Uh-huh.
1983.
In 1983, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, actually, the movie that
But you don't find out until later.
But we
don't know
didn't.
what he
we didn't
is.
see. We didn't see him till the third movie, till 1983.
God.
I would
That
have
scene in
preferred
this
that.
that scene in this movie was added later. It was a deleted scene that they took out that didn't have that monster in it at all. That it was a
Yeah.
deleted scene that had a fat guy. They cut it from the 1977 movie and they put it back in when he added all the other stuff. Like
And they
so,
just CGI'd the big sandworm guy over
Yeah.
the fat guy.
But who
in
was the fat
that
guy?
scene.
Was the fat guy just one of Jabba's henchmen? Is
no,
that
he
what
was
it
supposed to be Jabba the Hutt originally when they made it, but then they cut it from the scene.
Mhm.
They cut it from the movie, so it wasn't in the movie. So
And
nobody
yeah.
saw that scene
Yeah.
till what year? 80?
97.
1997.
Because
Oh,
nobody saw Jabba the Hutt. We just heard his name as the guy
Gotcha.
that Han Solo owns money to. We didn't know
Yeah.
what
And I
Jabba
like
the
that
Hutt
I
was.
more.
understand.
I like that
Yeah.
a lot more than us seeing him. I wish
So-
we didn't.
yeah,
He's
so is-
awful looking. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I
the-
think
The
everyone kind
reveal
of
of him
agreed.
is ruined for you guys. You
Yeah.
guys can't have that experience because they added that in, and that's when people get mad. Like, why did George Lucas
Yeah.
add all that stuff? And there's a lot more stuff in the crowd scenes of like
Mhm.
CGI things. Like if you see the mice that they added in between scenes, and that one droid hitting another droid. None of
Mhm.
that was in the 1970s. Anything that doesn't look like the 70s wasn't in here, and
I
they
just
added it
think-
later.
I just think like watching it how we did, it's just like, okay, cool, aliens exist. This is just an alien guy. But if I hadn't seen
Mhm.
what he looked like, I'm like, oh, that's a creepy alien guy who's we've been talking about this whole time for 2 whole movies.
Yeah.
To be fair,
I don't know.
I mean,
To be
Yeah.
fair,
sorry. Yeah, for me, it's weird because I already knew what he looked like. So I was like, oh, that's Jabba the Hutt, you
Yeah.
know? But I guess if I had
Yeah.
not known in context, it would have been like, ugh, you know?
yeah. I
But-
mean, to be
I
fair,
had no clue.
when Return of the Jedi rolls around and you first see him, he's much bigger and he's very disgusting. So I think there will still be a quality, gross, evil impact when he shows up in the third film.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But not as good. I think they did fuck up.
also that spawned one of Joe's favorite parody characters, Pizza the Hut.
Oh yeah, Pizza the Hut and Spaceballs
Okay.
is one of my favorite. He's delicious
Yeah, look-
looking.
Pizza Hut. What is
Yes.
that?
That's in Spaceballs, the Mel Brooks parody of Star Wars.
Spaceballs. Oh, I have heard of Spaceballs. It's kind of like Spinal Tap. It's like a parody thing, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's basically Rick Moranis' Dark Helmet, not Darth Vader. It's just Mel Brooks making fun of the whole Star Wars franchise.
Love it.
And it's I think it helps to see the Star Wars franchise first, and then it'll be a lot of fun whenever
Okay.
you guys get around to Spaceballs.
Honestly, we should
Good.
add Spaceballs into the watch
The
thing after 4 or 5
Star Wars.
episodes.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Love that.
Carrington,
Pizza
what
the
were
Hut.
your takeaways?
Oh,
Yeah.
I have a list.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's get to
I
your
can
list.
also made a list. Yeah.
So back on like the One Piece train, I don't think any of you guys know who the heck I'm talking about, but there's I want to say like the second arc of One Piece has a character named Princess Vivi, and
I
she's
do.
just
I
like,
do.
yeah,
I've
she's
entered the
just like
Grand Line.
Oh, okay, you mentioned Grand Line. That's good. But she reminds me so much of Princess Leia. I saw her and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like
I get
carbon
that.
copy, but I looked it up and One Piece is after Star Wars. I think One Piece was like 99, so they
Yeah,
weren't
Probably inspired.
directly influenced. But
Do you think
No
One
doubt.
Piece
That
was
is-
inspired by Princess Leia?
well, I tried to look it up to see, but I didn't see anything saying so. I think they're just 2 strong princesses who care for their countries. But one of them
But yeah,
no
you-
longer
you
has a
get-
country.
Like if you ever get there, you'll kind of see it. Like you can
Yeah.
see, but I feel like that's also like the princess trope because like in video
Yeah.
games you have like Princess Peach, so
Mhm.
it's the thing.
Yeah, there's always been a princess trope, but I think Star Wars is so deeply ingrained in the zeitgeist that I think there's a million things that are probably inspired by Star Wars that don't even know that they're inspired by Star Wars. You know,
then keep in mind, Star Wars itself was inspired by the old serial adventures for kids. Sure. So it's continuing, it's establishing and also continuing tropes from the olden times.
Let's see. I had to laugh because whenever Luke went to Obi-Wan, he was like, well, who was Obi-Wan? And I paused it. I looked at my boyfriend. I was like, his dad was Obi-Wan. And as soon as I unpaused it, he was like, oh, Obi-Wan is me. And I felt so dumb.
Obi-Wan is me. I'm him. Yeah, he's me.
No, it just means the misdirect worked.
Wait, what? Wait.
I was like, oh, it was his dad.
Hold on. Isn't his dad? Wait. Isn't his dad?
I
don't want to spoil it.
That's a spoiler.
I don't want to spoil
I'm confused. Okay, but Carrington Googled it, so that's a spoiler. So
Carrington,
we shouldn't be allowed to Google things.
All Carrington is clarifying now
to Google.
is that she thought Obi-Wan was because he talked about his father, and then he said Obi-Wan is.
Thought it was.
He thought she was going to say Obi-Wan is your dad, but he said no, Obi-Wan is me.
Because he went by crazy old Ben Kenobi.
Ben Kenobi and Obi-Wan. But that's where
that's his brother, and oh my god,
right?
That's his uncle. No.
But that's a name. He says
it gets very confusing very quickly.
It's a name I haven't heard in a very long time. Which acts and that's my whole complaint about watching it now in hindsight is that's
a name I've not heard.
Yeah, like now we all know. I mean, we all know because we've seen all that. Ben Kenobi is, before he even tells Luke, but it's like there's a lot of things he doesn't that bother me. Like he doesn't seem to have any idea who R2D2 is. And if you watch Clone Wars, he's got so many fucking adventures that didn't exist then. Obviously.
So why don't you remember your droid?
The thing is, and I think that's where you have that kind of sort of disconnect with the originals and then the prequels and the stuff that comes after that.
Yeah,
because it's like at the time they probably didn't really think like, oh, you know what? Let's make this movie just in case later on someone wants to add on to it. Like you get that a lot of times when you're watching any type of network television. Where there are like 22 episodes, but they won't, make the season just in case we get canceled. Let's kind of make an end to the season finale and not start with a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
if we don't know we've got a second season yet.
Yeah, you can't plan
it. So you're
Alec
watching
Guinness,
like,
there's no way Alec Guinness thought there'd be 7 seasons of a cartoon all about R2D2 and him, but
also they're droids on one hand, and on some level they're like appliances.
Yeah, like you remember that washer and dryer you had?
Do you remember that blender that you made that great mixed drink with?
But if you watch Clone Wars, Andy, which you haven't, so I know a little bit more about you, than you. But R2 is like his best friend, and like they're best friends, and they're forever. They've been through all.
Well, he does say hello, my little friend. That's how he greets R2D2.
But
but then he turns around and says, "I don't remember."
Yeah, I don't seem to remember having a droid. But my no prize for this would be. He's an old fucking man.
Right.
And maybe he's done a shit ton of peyote or Star Wars drugs or
how about, I don't remember.
He's old and high.
He's old as fuck. He's an old hippie. Yeah.
I think this is where like nerds get into really parsing the actual words. I think he said, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he said, I don't remember owning any droids. Maybe he never considered himself an owner of R2D2, but rather his little friend.
This is a question I want to bring up also, since we're on the subject.
Yes.
What the fuck is Chewbacca? Is it like
He's a Wookiee.
Okay, I understand that, but like, is he a man? Is he an alien? Is he a pet? Is he? Is it like a Pluto or?
He's a man.
He's like a Goofy.
He's from another planet. There's a planet called
Here's the thing about Goofy.
Goofy's fucking stupid, and they shouldn't allow him to be a human man. They should allow Pluto to be the human man because Pluto's a lot smarter than Goofy is.
Yeah,
so this is like a Goofy situation.
I'm with you on Goofy.
You should not allow Goofy to be a human man.
Okay, but you know what I mean.
I love that sentiment.
But he can talk.
Goofy is too stupid to be
I'm
alive.
passionate about this. I have strong feelings about Goofy.
Goofy is too stupid to be sentient.
Let me play devil.
I watched
devil's
a lot
advocate.
of Mickey Mouse Club. Sorry.
Let me play devil's advocate on the Goofy Pluto thing. Okay, Becca, do you have dogs?
I don't have any animals at all.
Okay, I have two dogs, right? I have two dogs, Wheezy and Ralphie. If one of them suddenly started being able to speak English and hold a conversation, the other one remained just pissing on the floor and being an asshole and barking, then I would treat one as Pluto and the other one I would kind of treat as Goofy. Like Wheezy would just kind of be my Goofy.
Even if he was like Garsh and like crashed his car into your house, like, you'd still be like, cool, it's fine. Like,
yes,
you should be cool with all this.
Yes. So I will say Chewbacca is more like
nuts.
Is more like Goofy than Pluto because he's not a pet. He's he's an alien from another planet called I don't know how to say it. Kashyyyk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've heard a guy called Kazook.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's a whole planet with all like Sasquatch looking dudes. And
oh God, do we mention the Star Wars Holiday Special?
Oh yeah, you got to watch that.
This might be
and Becca.
If you don't really.
Well,
George Lucas would rather you didn't.
It might ruin what you like about Star Wars. B. Arthur's in it.
Oh, I'm sold.
Yeah. The Star Wars Holiday Special was like a TV special that George Lucas has disavowed because it's ridiculous. But it involves, I mean, it's like a musical thing. B. Arthur has a song. Art Carney from the Honeymooners is in it.
Yeah, B. Arthur's a bartender, a space bartender.
Yeah, but it's devoted to Chewbacca's family, which includes other Wookiees named Lumpy and Itchy.
Yeah, and his wife watches a baking show.
Yeah,
for like an hour. It's really bad.
It's really awful, but it was 70s. It was what television was in the 70s. That they just tried to do a cash in, and it's bad news. But it is historically significant just because it has more Chewbacca family that I don't think is necessarily actually canonical.
I'm so glad you brought it up in this way that we can just kind of talk about Chewbacca a little bit because when I was watching it this time, a memory, I've watched this movie probably 50 times, but a quick memory came back that I totally forgot about, and it's a moment that hurt my feelings as a kid, and it's because as a kid, you love Chewbacca. I had like a stuffed animal of Chewbacca, like he was my boy. Like you love the droid, kids love the droids and Chewbacca. And the moment when Princess Leia's like, will you get this walking carpet out of my way? Like, it hurt my feelings so bad that she didn't like him. Like, why would you say that about Chewie? Like, he's Chewie. Like,
so many feelings, and especially when they're like about to get compressed in the trash compactor.
Yeah.
He's like fully freaking out. And I'm like,
he is. Like, I was trying to figure out if he had like a grudge against what was in the trash compactor. Where did it go?
That animal, yeah. Why did it just stop? Yeah, just let him go and went away. Yeah, like.
Because why didn't we escape where that escaped to? I was just confused.
I think the water was drained, and the squid thing probably went with it. And then that's when they started closing the thing, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was kind of like, where did all that trash go? Like it was filled with trash. Now it's all kind of gone. Like, where did it go?
Mm-hmm.
I did think more about it this time. And I don't know, Art and Andy, do you guys remember, was that part when the eye pops up and looks around? Was that in the original one? Because I don't remember that part.
It might have been. I mean, that's something they could have easily done. I don't think that was a CGI.
I mean, it wasn't very good CGI. So I was saying this the other day, is like, now watching in 2024, it's hard to know what was added in the 90s because even 90s CGI is shitty. Now 70s CGI is really shitty, but 90s CGI is so shitty now. That's hard to tell what was even added then, later. I love it. Okay, I love this. See, these are great questions. It's fun to talk about.
Now, let's see what an 11-year-old thinks.
All right, I'm sitting here with Sparky, Calhoun, Jack, Sandwich. Did anybody call you CJ?
Yep.
They do?
No.
No, nobody calls you that?
Could call me CJ.
You like to be called Sparky?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Calhoun?
Yep.
And Cal?
Yep.
Okay. All right, Cal. So I want to talk to you about the characters of Star Wars.
The characters?
And yeah, just tell me, like, what's your overall impression of, like, how about Chewbacca?
Chewbacca?
As far as, like, someone else kind of was, like, was very confused by Chewbacca. Is he a dog? Is he a pet? Is he a man? What's your feeling towards Chewbacca? Just think of just the first episode, episode 4.
So, I think his species is, like, man. Like, I don't think they're more utilized as pets. I think that's only really, like, thought of because of, like, he's Han Solo's best friend. Mm-hmm. And you could even see that in the Star Wars story, Han Solo's movie, that they were enslaved like people, and that's why
the Wookiees were?
Yep, the Wookiees were. And
spoiler alert for when we get to that one.
Thanks to all of the tangents, Nerd School has run out of time, but join us for the next episode where Artstar, Professor Andy and Jackass Joe finish the discussion of Star Wars A New Hope with Carrington and Becca, with a few notes from Sparky.
Nerd School Podcast. History for Jerks.
They say I can't rap about the president no more, but evidently they don't see we in the streets still poor. Still more incarceration of my kinsmen by the prisons, and people thinking this election.
The Nerd School Podcast is a product of History for Jerks and a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more about History for Jerks at historyforjerks.com. Check out the Gruff and Loud Show on YouTube, a show with 2 jackass Gen X dudes drinking beer, smoking weed, and rambling about pop culture. Also, check out the American Timelines podcast featuring Joe and Amy. It's true crime meets history and pop culture. There's also a dumb t-shirt shop on Threadless created by History for Jerks. You can buy a Gordon Jump shirt or an Edie McClurg shirt. It's really dumb and stupid.